Welcome to a realm where unseen forces stir and restless spirits defy time. In these tales of poltergeist disturbances, mysterious energies unsettle the ordinary and dark secrets awaken. Prepare to enter a world where every whisper holds a story. Elmwood Manor had stood on the outskirts of a quiet town for over 2 centuries, its stone facade bearing witness to countless generations. The estate's history was steeped in mystery and sorrow, passed down through local folklore as a place where the boundary between the living and the restless departed blurred. Many residents of the town recalled ancient whispers about strange occurrences and unexplained disturbances that plagued the manor long before modern times. Within its weathered walls, inexplicable phenomena were reported. Objects would move seemingly on their own, and the air grew thick with a palpable tension. It was said that a malevolent presence had taken root in the manor, an unseen force whose intentions remained obscure yet undeniably unsettling. Over time, the manor earned a reputation as a site of enduring unrest, its dark legacy woven into the fabric of local lore. Jonathan, a recent heir to the manor through a long-forgotten family connection, arrived at Elmwood Manor seeking solace and a fresh start. He was a thoughtful, reserved man with a quiet determination, yet the imposing aura of the estate stirred in him a mix of intrigue and apprehension. In the early days of his residence, subtle anomalies began to reveal themselves. Doors that had been securely locked were found ajar, and personal items mysteriously shifted positions without explanation. Although Jonathan dismissed these incidents as the result of an aging structure settling into disrepair, a disquieting feeling grew within him. Neighbors recounted stories of eerie happenings and unexplained disturbances that had plagued the manor for generations, and Jonathan, despite his rational mind, could not shake the persistent notion that an unseen force was at work. His nights grew troubled with restless thoughts as he pondered the possibility of a spectral presence lingering in the halls. Within a fortnight, the disturbances escalated into a series of inexplicable occurrences that defied Jonathan's logical explanations. Furniture inexplicably shifted from its place in the drawing room, and cold drafts swept through closed rooms as if animated by a force beyond nature. Objects appeared to move on their own, and unexplained knocks resonated through the corridors at all hours. Jonathan, now perturbed by these relentless anomalies, began to keep meticulous notes of each event. The records detailed not only the precise timing and location of every mysterious movement, but also his own feelings of dread as the unseen force made its presence increasingly apparent. Though he sought rational explanations for the occurrences, a growing realization took hold. Elmwood Manor was not merely an old building but a living repository of restless energies. The manor's history, marred by sorrow and loss, had seemingly awakened an ancient, disruptive force that refused to be ignored. Determined to understand the origins of the disturbances, Jonathan delved into the manor's extensive archives. Old letters, diaries, and newspaper clippings revealed a pattern of inexplicable events dating back generations. One account described a restless spirit associated with a long-deceased relative, whose turbulent emotions had been captured within the walls of Elmwood Manor. Another document hinted at a violent incident that had left deep scars on the estate's legacy, an event that seemed to have unleashed a disruptive force still active in the present. As Jonathan read these relics of the past, he began to connect the dots between personal tragedies and the poltergeist's malevolent influence. The more he learned, the more he sensed that the disturbances were not random, but deliberate acts of a tormented presence seeking resolution or revenge. In his quiet study, surrounded by the weight of history, Jonathan confronted the possibility that the manor was a stage for a long-standing spiritual unrest, a place where the echoes of grief manifested in tangible ways. As weeks passed, the poltergeist's manifestations grew increasingly violent. Jonathan experienced moments when furniture was hurled across rooms with inexplicable force, and cherished belongings were abruptly displaced, leaving him with a lingering sense of dread. Each occurrence seemed to be a deliberate message from the disturbed spirit, a plea for acknowledgement or a warning of unresolved turmoil. Despite his efforts to maintain a rational perspective, Jonathan could not ignore the mounting evidence that the manor was a battleground of unseen energies. The destructive events were sporadic, yet unnervingly systematic, as though guided by an intelligence with deep-seated grievances. In quiet moments of reflection, Jonathan wondered if the spirit's aggression was born of pain or anger, a raw emotion that had festered through the years. His mind grappled with the possibility that the poltergeist was not a mindless force, but a being tormented by memories of a life marred by sorrow and injustice. With his resolve wavering, Jonathan reached out to scholars and paranormal researchers who had studied the phenomena of restless spirits in historical estates. A local expert on supernatural disturbances, known for his measured and scientific approach, agreed to visit Elmwood Manor. Together, they reviewed the records and discussed the possibility that the poltergeist was an amalgamation of unresolved traumas passed down through generations. The expert noted that the spirit's behavior was erratic yet deliberate, suggesting a consciousness fueled by long-standing resentment and sorrow. Although the consultation did little to allay Jonathan's fears, it offered a framework for understanding the chaos that had invaded his once peaceful sanctuary. In quiet conversations late into the night, the two men examined the manor's history and the intricacies of its enigmatic disturbances. Their discussion painted a picture of a spirit burdened by the weight of its past, seeking closure or perhaps retribution in the present day. One evening, as the manor settled into the quiet of night, the poltergeist unleashed its full fury. In a moment that would forever haunt Jonathan's memory, an array of objects simultaneously erupted from their places. Books flew from shelves, chairs toppled over with violent force, and a mirror shattered into countless fragments. Amidst the chaos, Jonathan stood resolute yet filled with terror, feeling the oppressive presence of a spirit determined to break the confines of its spectral prison. In that singular episode, the intensity of the disturbance reached an unimaginable peak, leaving the manor transformed into a place of turmoil and despair. The relentless barrage of inexplicable events forced Jonathan to confront the undeniable reality that he was not alone. The manifestations were not merely random accidents, but the orchestrated outcry of a being desperate to be heard, its anguish echoing through every shattered piece and displaced relic. After that tumultuous night, a calm gradually returned to Elmwood Manor. Though deeply shaken, Jonathan resolved to meticulously record every detail of the events and honor the spirit whose hidden anguish had been revealed. He gradually realized that the poltergeist was not solely malevolent, but rather a tormented entity born of profound sorrow and long-held wounds. In his quiet solitude, he vowed to help the troubled spirit find the closure it desperately sought. As the days progressed, the disturbances lessened, leaving behind a poignant reminder of the manor's tragic legacy. Jonathan's experience stood as a solemn testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of the inexplicable, truly enduring. Raven's End was a venerable estate perched on the outskirts of a sleepy village, its stone walls and weathered architecture steeped in legends of sorrow and mystery. For centuries, the manor had been a silent witness to both celebrated histories and tragic misfortunes, its corridors echoing the secrets of bygone eras. Local lore spoke of an unruly force that defied explanation, a presence that manipulated the very fabric of the building with unpredictable energy. Residents whispered that the estate was not simply haunted, but possessed by a disruptive spirit that could not be tamed. Over time, the tales of inexplicable occurrences grew, each account adding to the aura of foreboding that clung to Raven's End, a constant reminder of the power of the unknown. Evelyn, a determined historian with a penchant for unraveling mysteries, arrived at Raven's End to restore its faded glory and to discover the truth behind its ominous reputation. With a careful eye and an inquisitive mind, she began to explore the mansion's hidden archives and dusty passages. In the early days of her restoration work, subtle disturbances made themselves known. Books found on the floor, doors left ajar, and inexplicable shifts in the arrangement of cherished heirlooms. Though Evelyn initially attributed these events to the natural quirks of an aging building, a lingering sense of unease took root in her heart. As she delved deeper into the manor's history, she encountered records of unexplained phenomena and accounts of a spirit whose defiant energy defied all rational explanation. Within a matter of days, the disturbances at Raven's End intensified beyond mere misplacement of objects. Mysterious forces seemed to manipulate the environment with a will of their own, causing items to shift abruptly and notes to be rearranged in patterns that defied logic. Evelyn observed that the occurrences followed no predictable schedule. They were sporadic yet undeniably forceful. The sensation of being watched and the sudden, inexplicable movements of everyday objects left her with an unsettling awareness that the spirit was restless. As the energy within the mansion grew more turbulent, Evelyn began to record each anomaly with precise detail. Her careful observations painted a picture of a force that was not simply a residual echo of the past, but an active and disruptive presence determined to make its mark on the living world. Determined to confront the growing chaos, Evelyn resolved to delve deeper into the mystery of the poltergeist at Raven's End. She began to engage in quiet, methodical attempts to communicate with the unseen force, hoping that a dialogue might reveal the spirit's intent. In the solitude of the Manor's ancient study, she carefully documented her thoughts and experiences, seeking patterns or messages hidden within the disturbances. Despite her efforts, the spirit's manifestations remained inscrutable, characterized by a capricious energy that oscillated between benign mischief and vehement disruption. Yet, with every interaction, Evelyn sensed that the poltergeist was not merely a chaotic presence, but a complex entity driven by unresolved emotions and a longing for acknowledgement. Her methodical approach, marked by patience and resilience, gradually opened a window into the enigma that haunted Raven's End. Over the following weeks, the poltergeist's behavior at Raven's End exhibited moments of startling intensity. Unpredictable disturbances escalated, with the spirit orchestrating events that defied any logical explanation. At times, items would inexplicably vanish only to reappear in odd configurations, while at other moments, a sudden burst of activity would send objects flying and leave chaotic disarray in its wake. Evelyn recorded these occurrences with a mixture of scientific curiosity and deep unease, noting that the spirit's actions seemed to convey a narrative of its own, a story of pain, loss, and perhaps unfulfilled longing. Although the manifestations were both disruptive and bewildering, they also hinted at a yearning for communication. In the midst of the disorder, Evelyn began to wonder if the poltergeist was attempting to relay a message, a desperate cry for help from beyond the confines of its spectral existence. Faced with the mounting intensity of the supernatural disturbances, Evelyn sought to bring a measure of calm and understanding to the chaos. She initiated a series of careful experiments, documenting the timing and nature of the events in hopes of discerning a pattern or trigger. In the quiet hours of the night, she would sit alone in the Manor's library, pen in hand, while the unpredictable energy of the poltergeist unfolded around her. Her observations revealed that the spirit's activity seemed linked to the mansion's own historical cycles, as if echoing unresolved conflicts from the past. Despite the overwhelming strangeness of the phenomena, Evelyn maintained her determination to bridge the gap between the living and the spectral. Her steadfast approach was rooted in both scientific inquiry and a deep empathy for the unseen forces that had long haunted Raven's End. On a particularly cold evening, as the wind whispered through the ancient corridors of Raven's End, the poltergeist unleashed a surge of activity that defied all previous events. In a dramatic display of its power, the spirit seemed to orchestrate a symphony of chaos. Windows slammed shut, heavy draperies were suddenly drawn aside, and a series of objects inexplicably levitated for brief moments before settling back into place. Evelyn, now both anxious and resolute, documented every detail of the episode. The intensity of the event left an indelible impression on her, reinforcing the reality that the disturbances were not mere trickery of an aging structure, but the deliberate expression of a powerful, wounded presence. In that moment, the line between the tangible and the spectral blurred, leaving no doubt that Raven's End was a vessel for forces that transcended ordinary understanding. In the aftermath of that electrifying display, a quiet resolve settled over Raven's End. Though the poltergeist's actions remained shrouded in mystery, Evelyn's diligent recordings and thoughtful inquiries had unveiled the complex layers of the spirit's existence. She came to understand that the disturbances were not random acts of chaos, but the anguished expressions of a being burdened by a painful past. As the intensity of the manifestations gradually waned, the estate returned to a state of fragile normalcy, its legacy forever marked by the events that had transpired. In the quiet solitude of her study, Evelyn reflected on the profound encounter, recognizing it as a testament to the enduring interplay between human emotion and supernatural force. The experience at Raven's End left her with a deeper respect for the unseen, a reminder that some mysteries remain beyond the realm of easy explanation. In the end, the echoes of the night's events lingered in every stone of Raven's End, a silent reminder of the boundaries between our world and the realm of the unseen. Evelyn, forever changed by her encounters, understood that the search for truth often comes at a price. Her detailed records became a bridge between skepticism and belief, inviting others to question the nature of reality and the forces that dwell beyond explanation. Though the Poltergeist's tumultuous episodes eventually faded, its legacy endured in the whispered legends of the village, an eternal testament to the mystery that defies understanding. This final chapter left an indelible mark, inspiring caution and wonder among those who learned of Raven's End. Coldwater Hollow was a secluded homestead tucked away in a forgotten corner of the countryside, its isolated presence shrouded in mystery. The structure, built in an era long past, bore the marks of time and sorrow in its weathered stone and creaking floors. Whispers among the local community spoke of eerie disturbances and unexplained events that had haunted the property for generations. It was said that the hollow was the domain of a restless force, a poltergeist whose turbulent energy disrupted the peace and left traces of anguish in its wake. Over the years, accounts of objects moving without cause and sudden, inexplicable noises contributed to the reputation of Coldwater Hollow as a place where the living and the spectral intersected. The legacy of this abode was one of persistent unrest, woven into every stone and shadow of the old homestead. Marcus, a thoughtful writer seeking inspiration, inherited Coldwater Hollow from a distant relative. With a passion for uncovering hidden truths, he arrived at the property with both trepidation and curiosity. In his early days of exploration, Marcus noted subtle anomalies that defied easy explanation. A cup of tea left cooling on the table, a door that slowly creaked open, and whispers that seemed to echo in empty rooms. Though he initially dismissed these incidents as mere quirks of an old house, a growing unease began to shadow his days. The local villagers had long recounted stories of inexplicable disturbances in the hollow, and Marcus felt that the property was imbued with a sorrowful energy. As he settled into the old homestead, he resolved to document every unusual occurrence, convinced that Coldwater Hollow held secrets waiting to be unveiled. Soon, the activity within Coldwater Hollow grew increasingly perplexing. Marcus observed that objects would inexplicably relocate from their places, and notes he had written would be mysteriously altered without his knowledge. At times, a sudden gust of wind would stir the curtains and pages of his manuscripts, though no open window could be found. These occurrences were not sporadic. They became a consistent presence in his daily life. Marcus meticulously recorded each incident, noting the precise times and locations of the disturbances. With every anomalous event, the atmosphere of the homestead grew heavier, as if burdened by unspoken grief. The disturbances suggested an underlying narrative, a chronicle of anguish that spanned generations, embedded in the very walls of Coldwater Hollow. Marcus felt that the poltergeist was reaching out, trying to communicate its story through the language of inexplicable phenomena. Troubled by the mounting disturbances, Marcus decided to explore the deeper history of Coldwater Hollow. He combed through dusty records and personal journals left by previous occupants, uncovering tales of grief, betrayal, and sudden loss. One account described a tragic incident that had left an indelible scar on the property, a sorrowful event that seemed to have unleashed a restless force. The narrative hinted that the poltergeist was the embodiment of unresolved anguish, a spectral echo of a life cut short. As Marcus pieced together the fragments of the past, He grew convinced that the disturbances were not mere coincidences, but deliberate expressions of a tormented spirit. The revelations deepened the mystery of Coldwater Hollow, transforming it from an abandoned homestead into a repository of human sorrow and spectral unrest. Each discovery added a layer of complexity to the enigma that Marcus sought to understand. As the days passed, the intensity of the poltergeist's activity in Coldwater Hollow surged to unprecedented levels. Marcus found himself confronted by episodes that left little room for doubt. Windows that slammed without warning, furniture that inexplicably toppled, and mysterious voices that seemed to echo the tormented past of the homestead. These events disrupted his work and invaded his moments of solitude, leaving him in a state of constant vigilance. Despite the fear that gripped him, Marcus was driven by a relentless desire to uncover the truth in the spectral disturbances. His writings grew more detailed and impassioned with each passing day, capturing the raw emotions stirred by the relentless energy that permeated the hollow. The poltergeist, in its unfathomable complexity, appeared to communicate through these violent acts, as though it sought to expel the pain that had long been imprisoned within Coldwater Hollow. In a moment of resolute determination, Marcus decided to confront the heart of the disturbances directly. He set out to record a comprehensive account of the poltergeist's most intense episode, preparing his journal and positioning himself in the center of the parlor where the activity was most pronounced. As twilight descended, an overwhelming energy filled the room. Objects began to shift with deliberate precision, and an unspoken force seemed to command the very air. In that charged atmosphere, Marcus experienced a profound sense of connection with the spirit, as if both were bound by the shared weight of unspoken grief. The encounter was not a battle of wills, but an intimate dialogue between a man seeking truth and a restless presence desperate to be acknowledged. For a brief, transcendent moment, the divide between the living and the spectral vanished completely. In the days that followed, Marcus's understanding of Coldwater Hollow deepened, as the episodes gradually became less frequent, though the memory of their intensity lingered. He dedicated himself to transcribing every detail of his encounters, each word a testament to the mysterious interplay between sorrow and supernatural force. The poltergeist's behavior, though disruptive, now seemed to convey a mournful narrative, a story of loss and yearning that had echoed through time. Marcus found solace in the belief that by chronicling the disturbances, he was not only uncovering the truth behind the restless presence, but also offering it a form of recognition it had long been denied. His writings resonated with a quiet reverence for the unseen, a tribute to the enduring mystery that shrouded Coldwater Hollow in an eternal, somber embrace. In the final analysis, Marcus emerged from Coldwater Hollow forever transformed by the spectral echoes of its troubled past. He completed his writings with a profound understanding that the poltergeist was a vessel of collective grief, its tumultuous expressions a call for remembrance and healing. The old homestead, with all its mysteries and lingering sorrow, remained a silent monument to the enduring struggle between the living and the forces beyond. Marcus's journey had revealed that even in the midst of inexplicable phenomena, there exists a narrative of human vulnerability and resilience. His account of Coldwater Hollow stood as both a chronicle of supernatural disturbance and a tribute to the indomitable spirit that persists in the face of unfathomable challenges. Ultimately, Coldwater Hollow became more than a mere setting for paranormal activity. It evolved into a narrative tapestry woven from the threads of lost lives and unspoken sorrows. Marcus's detailed chronicle offered insight into the delicate balance between human existence and the inexorable pull of forces beyond understanding. His reflections captured the bittersweet essence of a place where every shadow held a secret, and every silence resonated with memory. This final addition to his work not only enriched the historical fabric of the homestead, but also served as a lasting memorial to the unseen forces that shape our world in mysterious ways, beyond all measure indeed. As our journey into the realm of poltergeists comes to a close, the echoes of these disturbances linger in the silence. Remember, every still moment hides a secret, and every shadow holds a story. Until next time, remain ever watchful of the unseen.